This is Moses Akali once again. Want to make some comments regarding my involvement in access activities and more so as a member of the Kenyan Advisory Committee. I think I want to say that I'm among members who are currently serving on the Kenyan Advisory Committee, and as the vice chair, our chairman is Pape Sembi, and this is a position I've held for about 4 years. But of course, before that, I'd been an active member of the Kenyan Advisory Committee. Now, what is important that I want to bring out is one of the key roles of the Kenyan Advisory Committee, as the name suggests. Our job as a committee is basically to advise. You know, we advise, we give our views in terms of the programs that we're undertaking. We advise the staff locally here, because the executive director being in Canada and of course the board may not be able to regularly supervise what is the staff are doing down here. And so we have come in to fill the gap, and occasionally when we have meetings, when we walk to these, and they need also to make decisions, we always are there to oversight and make sure that we try to refine the decisions that they are making, and more specifically in terms of utilizing resources. When we have the resources sent from Canada here, it is our responsibility to oversee, to ensure that they are utilized prudently, so that we get maximum value. So that is one thing that we are doing. We have a role in terms of even budgeting. When the time for budget, we give our views, because then we are able to appreciate what is happening in the country on the ground. And when we share with the board in Canada, it informs the decisions in terms of appropriation of the resources for during budgeting. The other thing that we also do as the Kenyan Advisory is that, of course, the terrain in Kenya and the terrain in Canada is definitely not the same. So when a decision is taken, we are also able to give our view so that we can customize it to fit the needs that we have on the ground. For sure, this one helps to maximize in terms of the benefits and the returns. So we want to appreciate, because the board in Canada has actually granted this opportunity. Every time there's an issue coming up, we always have engagements, we have virtual meetings, and we keep on discussing the issues until we get to a mean position that is agreeable both in Canada and home here. Because then the ultimate thing is, we want to be sure when we make a decision, it is going to realize the value we want. And so we help to provide the necessary information, the critical information that is required to facilitate the process of decision making and allocation of resources. So I think that we do. The other important thing we also do is, during the selection of the beneficiaries of the scholarship, KAC has a critical role, because we make sure that we monitor every step that the staff are going through, so that we ensure it is fair, it is credible, and it's such that will give us the end product, the end beneficiaries that actually they indeed qualify, they meet the entire criteria. Another thing that I also want to comment on, of course, as a member of the alumni, is the direction we are now going, which the concept we are calling Kenyanization. Kenyanization is not a new concept in Kenya in relation to access. The reason is, I remember in Alumni, of course, around 1998, 1995, 98, 96, there, the agents that we used to have at the access office, of course, largely they were Canadians. But at that point, I had already embraced some Kenyans, graduates who had successfully gone through the program, who had been answered, and at that point, maybe they were not having engagements in terms of job or something like that. They would be offered an opportunity to support the activities undertaken in the office. So they would be part of the team that will do the evaluations, they will do the assessments, even the home visits, they would be involved. So at this point, Kenyanization, I would want us to try and demystify this, in the sense that we are just talking about involvement, that when you are making decisions in Canada and in Kenya, that all of us, we do it in a consultative way. So that, for example, when you have an idea, we must make sure that if it comes to the ground, and this is the format we are taking, it's going to work. So our involvement in terms of giving our opinion, in terms of giving relevant information, in terms of even sharing the kind of government expectations, in terms of regulations, the policy requirements, that is already the organization we are talking about. And involvement in activities, in terms of selection of the students who have to be considered for this. This we have done for many years, and Kenyans all. So that's what I'm trying to say. This is not a new concept. The only thing that we want to do is we want to push it a notch higher. So that in this case, the question we should ask ourselves as Kenyans and as the members of the alumni is, fine, if Access has been providing 100 scholarships every year for the last 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, what value can we add as the members of alumni? And so this is where we are saying Kenyanization should be able to go a step higher in terms of us coming together for purposes of being able to develop vehicles and means to be able to mobilize for more resources locally, just to be able to embolden the scholarship program. So that, for example, out of the 100 we get, can we then try and add another 2? You know, from the Kenyan side, we mobilize these resources locally, and alumni have the capacity to do that. So that's what we are saying, that we just want to appeal to all of us, that Kenyanization should entail largely us going out of our way and getting more resources to be able to increase the number of scholarships. So the local mobilization, I think for me, is where we should focus more. But again, how are we going to do that? We must be able to put mechanisms in place. The mechanism that we'll put in place, number one, and this is what I really want all of us to start thinking about, we have the association, that is the society. We need to form a foundation. Now this foundation, so that you see the alumni has it has the Canadian component. But we are saying, can we then be able to, the same team, to form a foundation that would reflect a Kenyan outfit? Because then that is a body that we can be able to use as a means to mobilize resources, reach out to local partners, reach out to the county governments, the national government and other entities that support education in this country. Now, with that outfit, we'll be able to mobilize resources. The other thing that will also be a very good point for us as a foundation, we can own property locally here. Take, for example, if we mobilize resources and we are even able to put up an office block, because I don't see why Access, 30 years old, is paying rent in Kakamega. And we have an alumni that is credible, strong enough, we can form a foundation and we mobilize for resources and we put up an office where we'll even be able to house the alumni itself, its activities will be there, and Access will be housed at the same place. Of course, this will reduce on the recurrent expenditure by Access, which will therefore translate into additional resources that will be available to even support more needy students in terms of the scholarship. So I think at that point I would want to say that there's more we can do, but briefly for me, Kenyanization should be focusing on how we can have involvement of all of us in terms of mobilizing more resources just to embolden the program. Thank you.